faster. The next, once column 79 buckle, there is a phenomenon called vertical progression of failure. Once this column buckles, all the columns and the floor next to it would be in a vertical progression failure mode. And that's what it says here, buckling with column 79, which is the collapse initiating event, triggered the vertical progression of floor failures up to the east penthouse. And that's what we saw in that video, that it took some time until the penthouse at the top of the building kinked and disintegrated into the building, and subsequent cascading failures of column 80 and 81, and then vertical progression of floor system failures is spread to include the entire east region in this building. As you can see, here all the 4 floors above due to the buckling of this column failure. Next, that vertical progression moved horizontally. Remember when we saw the video, it was the kinking of the east penthouse. We saw it and disintegrated inside the building, but still the rest of the roof was in its place. So after the vertical progression, the failures spread laterally, mainly because now we have columns and floors failing, so the next line of column will be laterally unsupported. There is load redistribution, and there are forces exerted by the falling debris on the standing structure. So line by line, all these column lines in the core fail until the whole core collapsed. And that's what you can see here. This is from the initiation of the simulation, the LS line simulation, 4.5 seconds afterwards, 6.5 seconds following the collapse initiation. The line by line, these columns, the core are collapsing. And then once the horizontal progression was completed, there is nothing left but the exterior shell of the building. And as such, there is no lateral bracing or anything here in the lower floors, so columns buckled at the exterior. And that resulted in the whole structure just coming down because it's lost its support at the lower floors. Again, we see the video here. And you will see the kinking, vertical progression, and this still standing. And now it's time for the horizontal progression until the collapse, everything goes, and then the lower collapse of the exterior walls will appear as well. How did our models do? They didn't do anything.
It's obvious, it's clear.
Okay, let's clear this again.
It's very clear.
I don't know which one of these. I have similar files. Maybe this is the one. You can see the kinking here, vertical progression, and then that's followed by the failure wave would move laterally. I'm not sure this is the right animation though, but it should be fixed. And then the whole thing will come down. And again, the same story. You can see the kink from the video. And this basically happened after once this column buckled and all these floors now are collapsing in each other, and that would start, it goes all the way up to the penthouse, which disintegrates first before anything here would happen. And after that, this would be the horizontal collapse progression, and everything now will disintegrate and disappear from the video. We actually looked at the analysis of a point here. We traced this point, similar to what we have done before for the Wilfred Center tower investigation. We took a point here and we measured the horizontal vibration of this point. And when we track this point pixel by pixel, you get this behavior. Early on, time 0, let's just put some reference here. Time 0 would be the time where the east penthouse begins to collapse, the formation of that kink. This is the location of that pixel, no motion whatsoever up to here. So up to here the structure is standing. And then even before this event happens, you can see this vibration. This is basically here immediately before the buckling event, the floors are collapsing. No vibration first, floors collapsing, and then at the end of those floors collapsing, column 79 buckles, and then this region would be for vertical progression of collapse, and then this is when the east penthouse would disintegrate. This zone would characterize the horizontal progression of collapse. You can see that the structure, once there is lots of impact and floors impacting each other, the structure is seeing these large vibrations until the whole thing would collapse. I don't know if I'm going to be able to show this or not, but this shows the video or simulation along with this vibration of the northeast corner, and I didn't have good luck with this price here. No, sorry. It was just showing that the three of them are analysis in video, and the analysis of that point in the northeast corner are synchronized with each other. Just adding one more piece of validation for the work we have done. Principal findings. Due to the unique characteristic features that were in the towers, the girders had no shear studs. The long span beams, 52 feet, that's very long by today's standards, and the asymmetric floor planning around column 79, around that girder north of column 79, that resulted in the demise of this building. And that represented the first known instant of total collapse of a tall building primarily due to fire. The collapse was considered as fire-induced progressive collapse. For those of you who know what progressive collapse is, and if you do not know, this is a spread of local damage from an initiating event from element to element until the structure collapses. And that's what happened in the column 79 buckle due to the thermal or the fire effects, and that resulted in the demise of the whole building or the collapse of the entire structure. The current state of the art, or state of practice, in the US is that structural engineers are not responsible for fire design. Basically, we use a prescriptive approach. It's called ASTM E119 standard. I don't know if you're familiar with it here in Denmark or not, but it's basically based on some testing in a furnace. We decide that this component or this floor or this column have a certain fire rating specified in terms of our 2-hour rating or 3-hour rating, and that practice is not enough in our belief, because as we saw here, that this ASTM E119 standard does not account for all these factors: thermally induced interactions between structural subsystems, elements, especially connections, and effect of thermal expansion, and what happened after that. So based on this, we went back to our World Trade Center recommendations, and we emphasized some of the 13 of the recommendations, the 30 recommendations that I spoke about in the first presentation that were relevant to World Trade Center 7, and we added a new presentation. Sorry, I'm losing my mind.
Recommendation. Drink some water.
Huh?
Drink some water, it helps for jet lags.
Thank you. We added a new recommendation that we are hoping that the standards and codes community will act on it soon. Basically, we are heading at the NIST, and we currently actually have research projects dealing with progressive collapse and dealing with fire performance and fire design of structures. Where we hope we end up being is to depart from that prescriptive design approach for fire into what we call performance-based approach, and giving the engineer the tools that would allow him or her to design structures under fire, and taking into account the effect of thermal expansion and thermal degradation of mechanical properties, and also the modeling tools that we spend a lot of time developing. And special attention needs to be paid for the protection. So the recommendation here says that there is a need to evaluate our design practices in terms of fire performance, especially for the cases that we believe contributed significantly to the collapse of World Trade Center 7. And the list here would go like long-span floor systems, because as you know, the thermal expansion, the amount of thermal expansion is a function of N, alpha delta Tn, right? So for long-span floors, that expansion, the force resulting from that would be significant, and there is a need for us to look heavily into that for some buildings that would have spans in the order of 50, 60, and even longer spans that we see nowadays. Connection design, and we saw that the connection played a tremendous role on the failure of the girders north of column 79. Asymmetric planning, we saw that girder where beams are framing from one side, but no beams are framing from the other side. That definitely played a role in this collapse, and beams and girders that lack shear studs can be an issue as well. The community didn't act on this yet, but we are hopeful in the next few years that we will work closely with them in order to achieve some significant results on them. And with that, I thank you for your attention. I know there were 2 long presentations, but I hope you enjoyed them, and definitely enjoyed being with you tonight. Thank you very much.
Jeg er her som repræsentant for Architects Engineering på 9. Jeg er uddannet på den her skole, maskiningeniør i 94. Og hvis I vil vide, hvad der bliver sket den dag, så synes jeg, at I skal komme over til mig og få en kopi af den film her. Fordi vi mener, at sandheden om det her, det skal frem. Så I kan bare komme over til buffeten, og I har film med, og så kan I få en. Det er en anden historie end den, der er forklaret i dag. Men den her, den er bevis. Der er grundlag for den her historie. Det er ikke bare tegnefilm, som jeg ser. Tak fordi I havde hørt.